Good evening, visitors, and welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Jared Pratt, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Chief Petty Officer David Osborne. We welcome the veterans who have served, those who are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony from across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors and students on behalf of the following school. From Victoria, Mentone Grammar School. I invite you all now to please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Students, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through until the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Sergeant Donald Stephen Shubert Bristol. Donald Bristol, usually known as Shubert, was born in Canberra, Victoria, around 1892. One of 11 children born to Charles and Eliza Ann Bristol. He grew up in the Katunga district and became a carpenter. Shubert Bristol enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force in early 1916 and was posted to the 2nd Machine Gun Company. He left Australia for active service overseas in May 1916 on board the troop ship Port Lincoln. First sent to Egypt, he underwent a further period of training. He arrived in France in November 1916. Bristol arrived on the Western Front in one of the coldest winters on record. He spent some of the winter sick in hospital and was not fit to return to duty until March 1917. From this point, he was given regular promotion and undertook several specialist training courses. His commanding officer, Lieutenant Jack Horan, later wrote that Shubert was with my section for nearly 2 years, and by his sterling qualities as a man and a soldier, he commanded respect from all those who came into contact with him. On the 18th of August 1918, Shubert Bristol was promoted to sergeant. Shortly afterwards, his machine gun company entered the front line near the Peroni Road, joining the advance that had been pushing the Germans back for several weeks. In the early hours of the 23rd of August, Bristol was leading a gun team forward when an artillery shell landed nearby. He was hit on the head by a shell fragment and knocked out immediately. Some of his mates carried him to a nearby dressing station, but he died half an hour after arrival. Jack Horan wrote to Bristol's parents saying, "I'm sure it will be a relief to know that he suffered no pain and was buried decently and a cross put on his grave. He had only held his sergeant stripes for a little time, but if God had spared him, I'm sure he would have risen to the highest rung on the ladder." Today, Shubert Bristol lies in Heath Cemetery, Arbonair, under the epitaph, "One of the best, a soldier and a man, thy will be done." He was 25 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour to my right, amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. A group photograph is displayed today beside the Pool of Reflection, where Sergeant Bristol is located in the front row, first on the right. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. Now we remember Sergeant Donald Stephen Shubert Bristol, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in a hope for a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you all for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.